Hello, welcome to our service for Sunday, January 30th of 2022. We'll begin service with the ringing of Kancho, followed by sutra chanting of Juseige. Then we will be led in the reading of the daily creed of Jodo Shinshu by the Mountain View Adult Buddhist Association group. Then we'll hear a Dharma message from Minister's Assistant Devon Matsumoto. Then we will have the installation of the Mountain View's Temple Board of Directors cabinet and the installation of the cabinets for the Adult Buddhist Association and Buddhist Women's Association of the temple. Thank you for joining us today.
Namanda, Vatsanamanda, 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 Namanda, Namanda. Namanda, 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 Namanda.
The Daily Creed. Entrusting in the vow of the Buddha and reciting the sacred name,
I shall proceed through the journey of life with strength and joy.
Revering in the light of the Buddha and always reflecting upon my imperfect self,
I shall diligently attend to my life's tasks with gratitude.
Following the teachings of the Buddha, hearing and understanding the proper path.
I shall help spread the true teachings.
Rejoicing in the compassion of the Buddha,
I shall respect and aid others working for the benefit of society.
Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo
Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
Please join me in Gassho as I read from the Gatha Namo Amida Butsu. When life is fair and sunlight gilds the day, when fortune smiles and flowers adorn our way, oft let us pause with grateful hearts to say, Namo Amida Butsu. Even though our way leads neath a darkened sky, and to our loved ones pain and death draw nigh, our tears may flow, yet trustingly we cry, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabs, 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 namandabs. To me, this Gatha is the essence of the Jodo Shinshu teachings, as laid out by our founder Shinran in his interpretation of Amida Buddha's 18th vow, or also known as the primal vow. All we must do in this life is remember and recite the Nembutsu, which is, Namo Amida Butsu. And we too shall attain birth in the Pure Land or enlightenment. Now, this may sound easy in theory, but in reality, I found it very difficult to practice. I have asked myself, what is the Nembutsu? What is Namo Amida Butsu? And how can one phrase be the truth in this life? My understanding of Nembutsu has been fluid, and over these past years, it has changed constantly. However, it is always easy to remember the Nembutsu when life is going well. Like the Gatha states, when life is fair and sunlight gilds the day, when fortune smiles and flowers adorn our way, oft let us pause with grateful hearts to say, Namo Amida Butsu. To me, what this means is that in our times of strength and joy, the Nembutsu comes very easy to us. It is harder to question Amida Buddha's teachings when our life is going well and nothing in our life is going wrong. But what about those of us in our Sangha whose life is not going very well? How can the Nembutsu be the answer to poverty, discrimination, death and sickness and so on? These past few years, I've been searching for the response or answer to those questions. And at each step along the way, my response or answer has become more and more complicated. I have questioned the Nembutsu and Jodo Shinshu teachings in these past few years, searching for the meaning and understanding what Namo Amida Butsu or the Nembutsu means to me. One experience that helped me better understand Namo Amida Butsu was when my grandma passed away when I was in high school. Unfortunately, because she lived in Utah and she didn't really understand English well, and I didn't really understand Japanese, I never really knew her on a personal level. I only knew her through the stories my mom and aunties told us from when they were growing up, or from the stories that my cousins shared with me, since they were able to spend a lot more time with her since they lived in Utah as well. My mom did, however, always make an effort for us to go visit her and my grandpa at least once a year, a lot of times twice a year. So thankfully I was able to, form my own memories of her, even if they were short. But from what I could tell, she was an amazing woman, strong and reliable and independent. And I've always felt, this deep connection to her and the love that she had for me. But I remember, in her last few days with us, my aunties had asked for our family to gather and chant together. This was difficult though, because half of us lived in California while the other half lived in Utah. But luckily, we managed to do this through Skype. Zoom, I don't think was as popular as it is now. But we recited, the Nembutsu, Namandabs. We recited Namandabs, Namandabs, Namandabs. The echo, I remember, or the Nembutsu echoed through the room and through her room as well, is what I remembered through the Skype call. And at first I thought maybe the sound of the Nembutsu was meant to wake her up so that we could spend a little bit more time with her, or that the Nembutsu had some sort of magical powers that would extend her life if we said it more and more. But, I've come to learn or realize that this is not how the Nembutsu works. I've come to realize that it isn't just some simple phrase that we can say to complete a ritual or practice, and it's also not some sort of mystical or magical spell that we say to make our lives better. Rather, we say it, or I say it as a way to say, don't worry, we are in good hands, so we should let the Buddha's teachings guide me. By reciting Namo Amida Butsu, it in a way is a way for me to verbally express my trust in the Buddha's teachings and my desire for it to liberate all beings from suffering. And at the end of the day, when I feel like I'm left with nothing, I can still rest easily knowing that I am in good hands through the Buddha's teachings. And then I remember, hearing Namo Amida Butsu, the Gatha, at either her funeral or her memorial service. And one particular line stuck out to me. And it's, "And to our loved ones, pain and death draw near. Our tears may flow, yet trustingly we cry, Namo Amida Butsu." I think this line perfectly summarized what I interpreted Namo Amida Butsu as meaning for me when my grandma passed away. Reciting the Nembutsu reminds me that I cannot really end my suffering alone and by myself, and so that I should entrust in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha to guide me, and that I did not have to worry about her anymore, because I knew that she was in good hands. And another experience that really helped me understand what the Nembutsu means was when my grandpa passed away. And this is my grandpa on my dad's side. The grandma I referenced was the grandma on my mom's side earlier. This began, when my grandpa passed away, it began sort of a dark year for me, filled with a lot of isolation and a lot of death. In November of the year he passed away, 5 months after, one of my childhood friends from high school, middle school, and even elementary school passed away because he committed suicide. And then 1 week after that, a good family friend of ours and a good family friend whose cousin it was, or uncle it was, he passed away in a workplace accident and died. Then for me, in the spring semester of my final year of undergrad, I entered my internship placement, where I would intern as a hospice social worker. There, as the word or the title entails, I was working in hospice care. So I saw many of my clients come and go. Some I was with for months, and others I was with just for a few weeks, some even a day. And then some, I met them when I got there to their house, and then an hour later they had passed away. And then the following summer, a teacher of mine, a mentor and supporter of my rebellious behavior in the temple community, also passed away unexpectedly from cancer. So during this time, I felt really isolated and really alone, surrounded by a lot of death going on. I questioned, how could the Nembutsu save them from death? How can the Nembutsu save me from feeling that pain? And so as I sat there contemplating all that I have lost in that past year, in the past few years, I realized, how selfish I was being. I put myself at the center of those deaths and did not see how it was affecting, their friends and their families. I was just seeing how it was affecting myself, how I could be, saved from the feeling of pain that came with their deaths or with their pain and suffering. This is when I really remembered the Gatha Namo Amida Butsu again. And it goes the line, even though our way leads neath a darkened sky, and to our loved ones pain and death draw nigh, our tears may flow, yet trustingly we cry, Namo Amida Butsu. The language here I think is very powerful and direct. It reiterates the truth that pain and death are inevitable, and they are the only constant in this life, and that nobody is immune to it. There is no I in the Gatha, but instead it emphasizes interdependence. So it's not my way or my tears or I cry, but it's our way, our tears, and that we cry. And so I've come to understand the Nembutsu teaching as maybe two things. First, the Nembutsu is not just Namo Amida Butsu, but Namo Amida Butsu is countless things rolled up into one phrase. In the Gatha, it says, we trustingly we cry, as a way to say that, I am in good hands and that you are also in good hands. So we should let the Buddha guide us. With all that has happened around me, Nembutsu is a way to remind me that, I can't end my suffering alone, and that I should entrust my heart into the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. In my darkest times, or in our darkest times, we recite Nembutsu to remind us that, we are not alone. Our tears may flow, but trustingly we cry, Namo Amida Butsu. This Nembutsu is a reminder of the impact of the people's lives and how they too are our Dharma teachers. And so the second understanding sort of builds off of this first understanding. The second understanding that I've come to appreciate is that the Nembutsu is another way to say thank you. During this time that I was going through all of this, I turned to a good mentor of mine, a friend of mine, to help me understand all that was happening and why the Nembutsu was so important to me. Bob Oshita Sensei, who was with the Sacramento Betsuin, reminded me that Nembutsu is also when the words thank you just aren't enough. We say Namo Amida Butsu before we eat, to remind us of the lives and the work it took to bring the food before us and to thank those who sacrificed for us. We open and close a lot of our meetings with Nembutsu as a way to say thank you for all those in the room for coming to work together, and to thank Amida Buddha and their teachings for bringing us together as well. Even if we are not thinking it when we say it, Namo Amida Butsu is also thank you. Oshita Sensei reminded me that those that have left this earth do not leave this earth entirely, but really they might be changing forms. They turn into the Nembutsu. Each time we recite it, we allow them to live in our own hearts and minds and remember the impact that they had in our lives. And thus we say, Namo Amida Butsu, or thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for guiding me. And so, from this, I have come to understand that the Nembutsu is so simple, but also so complex. There are countless interpretations of the Nembutsu, and we are tasked, as individuals and as a Sangha with finding which interpretation holds true for us. Buddhism, in many ways, doesn't ask us to blindly follow, and instead it encourages us to seek out our own truths in this life. We can ask for answers, but we only be given responses. And even with the most trusted persons giving the responses, we must work to understand if their response is true to our own life and our own understanding of the Nembutsu teaching. So, as I share my understanding of the Nembutsu with you all in our Jodo Shinshu teachings, I think it's important to recognize that my interpretation is only one interpretation of many interpretations. There's many scholars out there and many priests and ministers who spend, lifetimes searching and looking for the answer or understanding the Nembutsu. So my interpretation is not just the only one out there, right? It may take myself a lifetime or anyone a lifetime to truly understand the Nembutsu. And some of us may never understand the Nembutsu, myself included. I don't think I will ever understand the Nembutsu teaching. But I think what it is important is that the Nembutsu will always be there. It won't solve our problems. It won't prevent death or poverty or sickness, but it will guide us. In a dark room, I've heard this sort of saying before, in a dark room, the Nembutsu does not turn on the light switch, but instead it helps us find our way to that light switch so we can turn it on for ourselves. In our happiest of times and in our darkest of times, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha will always be there to guide us. And so that, I believe, is what Nembutsu or Namo Amida Butsu means to me. And so in closing, I would like to read again from the Gatha Namo Amida Butsu. So please join me in Gassho. When life is fair and sunlight gilds the day, when fortune smiles and flowers adorn our way, oft let us pause with grateful hearts to say, Namo Amida Butsu. Even though our way leads neath the darkened sky, and to our loved ones, pain and death draw nigh, our tears may flow, yet trustingly we cry, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabs, 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 Namandabs.
Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namandabs, 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 Namandabs.
Thank you for leading us in Gassho, Sensei, and for installing us today. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce our 2022 Mountain View Buddhist Temple Cabinet, starting with myself as president, serving my second year of a 2-year term, and hopefully the final one. Our first vice president, Jean Shimaguchi, and president-elect. Second vice president and religious chair, John Arima. Treasurer, John Arao. Assistant treasurer, Bob Imai. Recording secretary, Don Fukuma. Corresponding secretary, Sharon Sukahara. Auditor, Kevin Arakaki. Assistant auditor, Peter Matsumoto. Membership chair, Bob Yamanaga. Assistant membership chair, Leslie Imai. Echo editor, Steve Tsuchida. Historian, Eric Arakaki. And past president, Doug Sarmra. Sensei?
Please join me in Gassho. You, the elected officers of 2022 Mountain View Buddhist Temple Cabinet, in accepting office, take upon yourselves certain responsibilities towards your Sangha and your temple. Are you ready to sacrifice some of your personal desires for the common good? Are you determined to do all your part during your term in office in spreading the ideals of Buddhism on this land to a higher plane by living the life of thankfulness for the benevolence of the Buddha, and also by realizing the ideal of the brotherhood of all life? Will you do this with all your might, without fear or favor to all, irrespective of class, color, and creed, and thereby help to lay the foundation stone upon which the future generations may build the universal Buddhist brotherhood through which the teaching of the Buddha shall shine forevermore? If you will take these responsibilities upon your shoulders, please repeat the following affirmation. We take office in Mountain View Buddhist Temple Cabinet.
We take office in Temple Cabinet.
Realizing our responsibilities.
Realizing our responsibility.
And determined to do all in our power.
and to determine to do our Dharma,
to remember at all times
and to remember at all times
the teaching of the Buddha.
the teaching of the Buddha.
Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you very much for your pledges to take office as our temple cabinet. Our temple has been closed for almost 2 years, but I'm deeply grateful for your great leadership and dedication to help our Sangha deepen our friendship and other bonds. I humbly ask for your guidance to continue to maintain our Sangha community in peace and harmony this year again. Together, let's make 2022 a bright year under the Buddha's teaching. Again, thank you very much for your dedication. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei, and thank you to the Cabinet of 2022. Look forward to working with you this year and look forward to your support. And hopefully, as I've been mentioning the whole past years, hopefully we'll get back in person sometime soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
よろしくお願いします。
お願いします。Please join me in 合唱。ナモアミダ仏。
ナモアミダ仏。
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 ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏。
Thank you for leading us in Gasho, Sensei. And thank you for installing our ABBA and BWA cabinets. It gives me great pleasure to first introduce our ABBA president, Jean Shimaguchi, who will introduce her cabinet. Jean?
Thanks, Bob. It's my pleasure, excuse me, to introduce the 2022 ABBA cabinet. Vice President Res Nakano, Treasurer Don Fukuda, Auditor Steve Tsuchida, Membership Chair Reiko Tsuchida, Assistant Membership Chair Mieko Nakano, Recording Secretary Lois Okino, Assistant Recording Secretary Shirley Matsumoto, Corresponding Secretary Joyce Okumura Lee, Assistant Corresponding Secretary Marilyn Ozawa, Social Chair Alice Ishida, Social Chair Judy Nakano, Historian Carolyn Murata, who is unable to join, Assistant Historian Toshiko Uehara, Hospitality Chair Joanne Makashima, who was unable to join, and Advisor Shirley Makashima. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Jean. It also gives me great pleasure to introduce Reiko Murakami, our president of BWA. Reiko?
Hello, I'd like to introduce my cabinet. I am the president of BWA. The recording secretary is Lois Okino. Corresponding Secretary Mio Takegami, who is unable to be here. The treasurer is Joan Aoki. A historian is Kimi Nishimura, also unable to be here. Religious chairpersons, Lori Kitazoe and Shirley Matsumoto. Official delegates, Toshiko Uehara and myself. Thank you.
Please join me in 合唱。You, the newly elected officers of 2022 Untitled Buddhist Temple Adult Buddhist Association and the Buddhist Women's Association cabinets, in accepting office, take upon yourselves certain responsibilities towards your Sangha and your temple. In your term of office, you will need to make sacrifice for the common good. And you must try, especially during your term of office, to live the ideals of the Buddha Dharma. In accepting the responsibilities of office, let's share the three treasures. I go to the Buddha for guidance.
I go to the Buddha for guidance.
I go to the Dharma for guidance.
I go
to the Dharma guidance.
I go to the Sangha for guidance.
I go to the Sangha for guidance.
Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Congratulations, everyone. I really appreciate your great leadership and the thoughtful efforts to take office in our ABBA and the BW habitats. The pandemic continues to prevent us from having our family activities in person. So it's still a challenging time for you to carry out your roles. But I know that we can get through this hardship together by meeting this challenge in solidarity. So let's make 2022 hopeful and bright under the Nembutsu teaching. Again, thank you very much for your hard work. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Devon, for sharing your understanding of Nembutsu and the calling of the name as your Dharma message today. For those of you who are watching this video as part of our Sunday morning watch party live in Zoom, please stay in the Zoom meeting because we will have the temple's annual member meeting following this live in our Zoom call. Thank you for joining us today.